This is a true story from a real haunted house. When someone hears knocking at Sally's house, it usually isn't coming from the front door. Sounds such as that move around the house, from room to room, and from one part of a room to another. Of course, sometimes the knocking is from the front door. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's someone there. On December 3, 2019, Sally heard the sound of someone knocking on the front door, but when she answered, there was nobody around. On February 21, 2021, at 7:30 in the morning, she heard several knocks on the back door. She looked out the window, and found no one there. There were no tracks in the snow on the back porch. 35 minutes later, the living room began knocking. It wasn't the door, but the knocks were coming from inside the room. On Monday, January 18, 2021, at 8:30 in the evening, she was reading her Bible in the living room, when she heard a single loud knock come from back of the house. She ignored it, and kept reading. About 15 seconds later, she heard a second knock. She ignored it. Every 10 or 20 seconds, a single knock could be heard. She tried to ignore them all, and kept reading her Bible. After several minutes of that, she finally got up to check on it. When she did, the knocking suddenly stopped. On the evening of Sunday, January 24, 2021, at 6:15, there was a loud knocking coming from the kitchen. On the morning of February 4, at about 15 minutes after 10 o'clock, the house was knocking again. On February 7, from 7 until 8, the hall kept knocking. On March 10, there were knocks coming from all over the house, all day. Sally's husband was home that time, and kept trying to identify the source of the knocks. At 4:35 in the afternoon, the bedroom door closed on its own. The next morning, a few minutes after 8 o'clock, her husband heard a loud noise, and asked Sally, "What are you doing?" It wasn't her. It was the house. On the 29th day of March, there were a couple dozen knocks, coming from the back part of the house. On April 11, at 8 o'clock in the evening, there was a single loud knock in the hallway, and again the next day, at 9 minutes after 5. On April 17, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a loud knock in the hall, followed by another about 10 minutes later, and then more about every 10 minutes. The next evening, after 9 o'clock, there were knocks off and on for about 20 minutes. These were from the hall and dining room. The following day, there were more knocks, every 30 minutes, or so. These weird sounds were just a few of the many similar events that have been happening for decades. But, as with other patterns of poltergeist activity, they eventually end, and move on to something else.